So we're in the studio. Full studio tour coming soon. By the way, we're just working on getting some grids, like new grids set up over here, over the stage. Full studio tour coming soon. But today, in the very least, I want to show you guys the gear cage, because we actually just made a huge addition to the gear cage and changed a few other things. So come check this out. Now, when we got in the studio, one of the first things we did was install this side of the gear cage. So from here on over, we put this in. Shout out Peter McKinnon, definitely inspired that decision, because having just a dedicated spot for all your gear that you can lock up and not have to worry about is one of the best things ever. So we did that first. The only problem was we didn't have a good system for actually like keeping track of all our gear. We'd just throw stuff on shelves and then pray we'd be able to find it when we needed it. That's all changed though. So we've modified basically our whole organizational structure for how we keep track of everything, how we store everything. So I'm going to dive into that. And recently, in the last 2-3 weeks, we added on this thing right here, this extra portion of the cage, which basically doubles the whole thing in width and pretty much in height. The reason we've added this on, because the gear cage is great for the gear specifically, but the reason we added this on is because we wanted a spot for all of our lighting to go, dedicated lighting area. Shout out Nanlite. Nanlite sponsored us. They sent us a ton of gear. And in our full studio tour, we'll really dive into the Nanlite stuff. But they have so much gear from Nanlite, we got to put it in a good spot. And before, it was actually kind of staying over here behind this wall. And it looked really messy. It wasn't a great spot for it. And there wasn't enough room. So we knew we needed to give it a dedicated area. Speaking of Nanlite, everything in this warehouse is controlled on the iPad. So I can turn off lights just like that. I can make them colored if we want to. And actually, the same thing goes for the gear cage. I can turn off and on these lights just with the tap of a button. There you go. So having everything like inside of the NanLink app is super helpful, because if we need to shoot here, you control everything right here. If we need to turn on the gear cage and we want lighting while we're shooting in there or just building a rig, whatever it might be, it's all in one app. Should we dive in? Welcome. This feels like an episode of...
What's up, y'all? Big Snoop D-O double G.
The story behind the cage, my brother-in-law works at a fencing company. And so he has access to basically all this material at cost. He kind of hooked it up. So we got that all installed, just drilled into the concrete. Again, we had this done first, and then we made this addition of more fencing. This part does not have a roof on it, because frankly, who's gonna scale 12 feet up and hop down here? No one, probably. So we didn't worry about putting a roof on this one, but it all came together and it looks really nice. So let's break this down actually into 2 parts, okay? Part 1, we're gonna talk about lighting specifically, and part 2, we'll dive into the core of the gear cage. We're gonna show you some of the gear that we're using and specifically how we're organizing. So when we got this space, and I don't know if there's any footage of this, but when we got this space, this was back here, just a little kitchenette. It was a countertop and a sink, not this sink, a different sink, and some cabinets. The previous tenants did not utilize this space very well. When we went in and we decided to paint the entire warehouse, we tore out that kitchenette. And then this back area was just kind of like an awkward storage area for tables and chairs and random stuff. If you look at the walls here, I don't understand the method was going in here to give it this shape, but it's such an oddly shaped space with the stairwell and everything else that we just really didn't know what to do with it. Once we built this cage, and then a month or 2 ago, I had the idea of actually enclosing this even more. It made a lot of sense, because we could just do a wall right here and a wall right there, and there we go. This space is where all of our lighting lives. And I'm gonna start here, because this is just my pride and joy. You guys know how much I love tube lights. This is a cobalt charging station specifically for drills, right? Impact drivers, whatever. So you actually would mount it right here, the drill, and it would sit right here, and you could take the battery out and then you would charge it up here. So it has a built-in power strip, and then normally has a shelf right here, and then this is where you would essentially holster the power drills, the power tools, whatever you're using. but I've converted it to be like the perfect charging station for tube lights. The problem with tube lights is they're really awkwardly shaped. They're just super long lights, and it's like, okay, well, we have to charge these things, and I don't want to like have them take up an entire shelf. Dealing with all of these cables that just plug into the very bottom is really, really annoying. So what can we do to simplify this? So I bought this cobalt mounting charging station, and then around here, what I realized is that the slots where the power tools would normally mount, they're actually too big for these to just like sit in there. So I bought essentially this molding that goes around the edge of this to allow these to fit in perfectly, just like that. So now when you need a tube light, you know exactly where they are. You can walk up, grab one. It's probably already charged. There we go. And you're good to go. And if you use it and you know it's dead or it needs a charge, grab one of these cables, pop it on over, plug it in, and we're good. So this will do like the 4-foot tube lights. You could put a 2-foot tube light in here as well. These are, what are these, like 6 feet? In here, don't look in there, utility closet. The fire department actually came by to make sure that everything was up to code, and we did not pass. What's tough about lighting, I'm realizing, is that you have, like with Nanlite especially, you have these cases where the light, that's where the light comes in, right? And if you want to travel with it, you throw it in that case. But most of the time, all of our lighting is like mounted somewhere, or it just lives on a C-stand. So we have a ton of empty cases. So I made sure the top shelf was just empty light cases. Those 2 shelves, we have a lot of modifiers here. So soft boxes, lanterns of different sizes as well, labeled it nicely. This is the only thing that's labeled. And then we have some milk crates actually for just kind of the odds and ends. So down here, these are also empty, by the way. We have some cones. We have a spotlight. We have some honeycomb grids. In here we have some smaller, just Nanlite spotlights. These are the FS60Bs, and just different kinds of lighting. Here at the bottom, we have an attachment, a Bowens mount attachment that makes it into more of a spotlight. And then we have some flags and other backdrop stuff. So we want people who rent out our space to be able to hop in here and access the lighting if they would like to, right? We want to let people use our lighting if we don't need it, as long as they put it back. And so we put everything on these shelves so they can quickly access that and just set up whatever they'd like. Over here we have just a quick little grip shelf. It doesn't look like much because it's not much. We're not gaffers. We only need a few little things. And so we have a milk crate with a bunch of these knuckles here at the top, and then some clamps as well. It doesn't need to be super organized. If you need to grab something, it's probably going to be in that milk crate. Got some arms right here, and then our C-stands just live here in this corner. We got our extension cables as well. Mounted this would typically go in like a garage, but it's perfect for extension cables. And then we got all of our backdrops. We also have all of our painting stuff if we need to paint the cyc, which we do. Some people don't tell you is when you get a cyc, you gotta paint it pretty much every week if it's being used. This corner is for our table, what do you call these? So we got a selection of just different textures for shooting product stuff, thumbnails, whatever it might be. We just installed this sink. So remember, this used to be a small kitchenette, so we had all the hookups for a sink and everything. And once we tore that out, funny story, we tore that out, we put it in the back alleyway of our building, and I planned on grabbing it and putting it back in once all the paint had dried. By the time the paint had dried, somebody had came and actually like taken that and either thrown it away or just stole it. So we didn't have a kitchenette, otherwise that might be the one that's in here today. But instead, we've got a nice little utility sink. Hooked it all up, and now we have a nice spot when we're shooting foods. We can do dishes. I think that's everything. Is that everything in the no, the live streaming stuff. Not a ton on here right now because we're not like a live streaming company by any means. We don't do a ton with that. But when we are live streaming, what we like to use, Blackmagic 4Ks, we got a couple of those. And then we have some adapters. I know there's not a lens cap on that, sue me. We just got a couple of lenses for that. So we'll have usually a main angle right here, just pointed right at the stage, and then maybe a secondary angle off to the side, right? So very, very simple here. Everything is actually connected with HDMI. So we have some super long HDMI cables in there, and it all goes in to the A10 Mini. A10 Mini allows you to actually switch between your different camera angles, which is really nice. Right here, we have these cameras from OBS Bot. I have tested them very briefly. We have not had the pleasure of using them yet. Down here, we have some stands just for podcast mics. Some people like to do podcasts actually on the stage. So if you want to grab a stand, you can do that. And then some tripods as well. And then this crate is actually just podcast mics. So if you need a mic, you can grab one of those, hook it up to one of those stands, grab an XLR cable from down here, plug it all in, and you're good to go. Okay, on to the fun stuff. So this space has had several forms over the last couple of years, a lot of different configurations, and I think this is, at least for now, the final form, right? We've had so many different configurations where shelving was most of it, there wasn't a workbench, now there is, right? And this is what we landed on, and it makes the most sense. So you walk in, and immediately the first thing you have is your workbench. Just a nice flat surface for you to grab your camera, grab whatever piece of gear you want, and build any rig that you would like. And then our shelving over here so you can access all the different cables, all of the gear that we have, and then charging tripods. And then we have our Nanic cases as well, kind of taking over the space. So this is where we've landed. Let's break it down. Nan light right here, nice softbox strip light hanging right over that workbench, all controlled by that iPad, which is great. And we have a quick pegboard. This is just IKEA. I've had this for a while and it's moved around, but it's here right now. Some Nanic pouches if we need to grab a pouch real quick and fill it up, maybe with some batteries, whatever it might be, we can do that. And then we have our hooks for gaff tape. We got a myriad of Allen wrenches up there if we need a random one. Some screws. There's supposed to be some Arca Swiss quick release plates in there. There's not. And then down here, actually, fun little hack. If you go to Harbor Freight and spend $10, if that, you can get a whole set of Allen wrenches. You have metric and you have imperial. And so you basically have an Allen wrench for every scenario. So it's great to have this just on the top of the workbench. So when we're building a rig, we can quickly grab whatever Allen wrench we need and we're good to go. Quick power strip right here if we need to charge anything on the table. And then down here is a, I think, Craftsman tool chest. And we've just configured it in the best way we know how for making videos, right? We have our top, which is random stuff, right? Scissors, we got little flathead screwdrivers, normal Phillips, we got some quick release plates down here. That's where our quick release plates went. All right, we can move that later. Got some random screws, some dummy batteries and random stuff, pens, Sharpies, markers, some more Allen wrenches, utility knife. Our second drawer down here is kind of like the small rig drawer at this point. It's just all the different things you might need to build some sort of a rig. So you have some plates, cheese plates, handles, L brackets, magic arms. Basically, I mean, hey, if you love making rigs, this is like Disneyland, I'm telling you. Third drawer down. We didn't organize this one. It's awkward. Okay, don't look at that one. Fourth drawer down. Not super organized, but honestly just like if we need to build something, screws, power tools, stuff like that, because we do find ourselves mounting things on the walls. We might be building a little set, right? So just having at least a few power tools is nice. I know it's not much, but it's better than nothing. Got a nice little chair. This is from Mounted, I think, right? But it's essentially a chair where you'll never have your feet up because otherwise you'll just fall forward. But it's a swivel chair. So you could sit here, build your rig if you'd like to. I typically just stand, but yeah, nice little addition. Moving on over to the shelves. We got our milk crates. You know, it's kind of embarrassing how long it took me to realize that milk crates are a great way to just store a lot of your general like film equipment, cables especially, because they're like the perfect size for most things. So we got a bunch of those. There's 3 right here. There's one up here. There's probably another one somewhere too. We have it organized by data cables, power cables, filters. Audio is down here. So this has like microphones, headphones. So milk crates, good investment. They're what, 10, 15 bucks at a... Down here we have some more like kind of like long-term storage containers, right? Craftsman, also Home Depot. And this is honestly just where a lot of the random stuff goes. Because let's be honest, you want to be organized, but there's a lot of crap as a videographer, content creator, whatever, that just doesn't have a spot, and it probably never will. You'll use it maybe once a year, and maybe you'll never use it again, but you just kind of want to keep it. That's why these come in handy. So most of the gear in here is stuff that we don't use regularly, but we know we're gonna need at some point. Up here we got our charging station. Shout out Peter Lindgren, by the way. We got the Tri-Charge. Really cool design, and just it's super compact, so you can throw all your batteries in here, all your memory cards, toss it in your backpack, and that's all you need besides your actual camera. Now other stuff we got, there's a lot of random batteries that you have to use when you're making content. And so we have some DJI batteries. These specifically work with the transmission system that we have. We have these NPF batteries from SmallRig. Love this design, by the way. So you have a nice display here on top. It'll tell you the battery level, and then you can actually do the same things you can with this. USB-C, you can charge it with USB-C. You can have output with USB-C and charge other things. And then there's also a USB-A on top. So good find. Got our Avata batteries, some more NPF, just standard boring, right? And then got a few V mounts as well. This is the SmallRig VB212 battery. I've talked about this quite a bit. We had 2, and then Bryson dropped one off of a 25-foot lift. That one doesn't work anymore. But we got the one, so probably gonna have to pick up another one. Also got basically the same thing, but just a smaller capacity. So V-mounts are great. Never really been a V-mount guy, and then we got a couple of them, and I actually love them, use them all the time. Gimbal, little baby tripod right there. We have just our tripod section. It's pretty bleak, I'm not gonna lie. It's a pretty lame tripod section, but we really only need a couple. This is a Peak Design travel tripod in that case. This one right here specifically is from iFootage, just a nice light travel tripod. This is a SmallRig tripod head, and then we do have, I mean, we're not crazy. We got an actual tripod, so this is a nice big tripod with the spreader legs and everything. And this is a good design. This is a much more robust tripod for shooting in studio. And when you show up to a shoot and you have this tripod, the client's gonna love you. So I'm not gonna pull this out, but we have the Dana Dolly. I met Dana at NAB in Las Vegas. She was very nice, very sweet. She had a booth right next to DJI's booth. And so I was speaking for DJI, gave her a little shout out on stage. And then we reached out to her after the event. And we're like, hey, remember how we gave you a shout out on stage? And she was like, yeah, like let's send you over a Dana Dolly. So shout out Dana, thanks for sending that over. And then we have a Nanook backpack. This one is empty, just in case you need a backpack, you don't have one, you need to fill this up with some gear, which is great. So Nanook designed this. I mean, it's pretty well thought out, I'm not gonna lie. You have your compartments in here, and I'm gonna talk about these in just a second, but these pouches fit in perfectly to these backpacks. So if you need it, you got it. Also, from Nanook is about 8 different sizes of hard cases. So we have kind of your standard, and by the way, I've used Nanook for a long time. So they did hook us up. They sent all of these out. Thank you, Nanook, so much. I've used Nanook for a long time, and they've been my preferred hard case forever. This is the first one that I had. Bought it probably 5 or so years ago, and I got it in yellow because it was on sale. Now it sticks out like a sore thumb in here, but they're great. So this is like your standard size, and they've made a couple little updates over the years, but this is like the perfect size for just going out on a shoot. You can grab 1 or 2 of these if you need to, the Nanook 935. And the way we have these configured is you have your pouch here, or sorry, I guess your lid organizer at the top. So if you want to throw anything at the top, you can. This back here actually doubles as a laptop sleeve. If you want to slide in a laptop or any flat items, papers, whatever it might be, you can totally do that. And then, guys, this is where, like, I just get so stoked, because the reason we haven't had very good organization in this cage for so long is because there was no organization. Again, you just threw stuff up on a shelf, and no one was very motivated to keep things organized and in the right spot. Now with this system, and I've talked about this, if you watched my What's in My Bag video, I did talk about this for probably a little bit too long. This is like the perfect system. So we have these cases, and we have different sized cases, right? Like we have the normal 935, which is the go-to, and then you have some bigger ones, some medium-sized ones. The way that Nanik has designed this is you grab your hard case, and then you have your soft cases, and these fit in perfectly to all of these, right? So, for example, if we were to pull this up, here is the Avata 2 drone. I'll open that up. This one has quite a bit of dead space because I'm waiting on a controller to come. The controller will go there when it's ready, but you have that nice and organized. If you want to travel with the Avata, you want to throw it in a hard case, you're going to get on a plane, you're going to throw it in the back of the car, you can actually grab that case and just shove it down inside of the hard case and you're good to go. The way they design these soft cases is you can actually push in on the edges, because inside of a hard case you have the wheel wells, you have the little indent where the handle goes, so you can push it in just like that. Push in the other side as well, and there we go. Okay, fits in perfectly. If we want to, we can take off this this lid that'll undo here on the back with the Velcro. So you can fit in a big soft case if you'd like to, or if you want to mix and match. Let's say, for example, you've got your FX3 and you've got your RS4. There you go. We can grab both of those, poke in the little dimples on this one. There we go. Do the same thing on this side. And now we've got our setup all in a hard case. Can close that all the way. And we're off to our shoot. So I'm gonna put these back on this shelf. I mean, you got a glimpse of our system. We've got these soft cases. They're labeled very, very nicely, FX3. If I need an FX3, pop it over here on the table, on the workbench. I can pull that out. I got a lens already in here if I need it. Memory cards for the FX3 specifically are in there as well. By the way, shout out Lexar for shout out Lexar for hooking us up. Just kidding. I'll show the other brands too. And everything's there. So if you need any piece of equipment, you pull out the case, and that's all you need. You don't need to go searching for anything else, unless maybe you need an extra cable or a microphone, whatever it might be. So we have all of these things organized. FX3, we have our Lumix lenses specifically. In this case, you saw the Avata already. In here we have our DJI transmission system, everything that you would need for that, super well organized. And then over here, this is a good one. Oh, this one's kind of heavier. Is a full set of cinema lenses. So, well, I mean, a couple are missing because we were using them just a second ago. But Nisi sent us over their full set. These are Athena Primes. Super, super nice. Like, gives you a really nice image. And they're not like anamorphics. They're not like giving like a super wide image. They just give you a nice, like, almost creamy look, like very cinematic, good bokeh. And so, yeah, they came in like a nice hard case, and we just converted it over to this soft case, so it's a little bit easier to access. And then whenever we need to, we can take this soft case, throw it into the Nanik hard case, and it's safe, it's protected, it's good to go. Also have a full case just for iPhone accessories. Lavalier microphones are in here with the lavaliers as well. Those are tough to keep track of. That was a good move on the lavaliers, because I swear whenever we need one, I just cannot find it. Again, all the Lumix lenses are in there. The S5 2X Lumix is in here. What else we got? Small rig mounting. The reason that I love this system is that no shoot is exactly the same. And packing for a shoot and making sure you have everything, and then like once you're done with the shoot, making sure you've gathered everything that you need to and it's gone back in its spot is really, really annoying. But if you can give every item its own specific place where it lives, then there's no question where it goes. And then Nanic also has these smaller pouches. They have a T1, a T2, and a T3. So the T1 and T2 are soft cases like this. This one specifically has the SDR transmission. By the way, this Nanic doesn't like do the custom lettering as far as I know on the pouches. I just happen to have a vinyl cutter, and so we cut this out nicely so everything was labeled. But in a soft pouch, we can put all the accessories that we need for the SDR transmission. Those fit in very nicely right here. And then in the hard case, you guys know we're shooting a lot of iPhone stuff lately, and so we've bought a couple of iPhone 15 Pro Maxes, and I want to keep them safe. So I put them in a nice hard case, labeled it as well. So now this other one is actually upstairs on my desk at the moment, but on this side you have your iPhone. It's in a nice case. This one is from Small Rig. It's a Brandon Lee Small Rig collab, and so we just keep them always in these cases and in these pouches. So if you need an iPhone, you can grab this, throw it in your Nanic, you can throw it in your backpack, you can just carry it if you want to, and that's all you need. So we have everything that has a home in their own little pouches and cases on this shelf specifically. Up here, because Nanic just kind of sent everything over, we have a lot of extra stuff. And so if we do have a shoot where we are packing something that might be kind of more of an archived piece of gear, it might be some cables, whatever, we can just grab an empty case and use that, throw that in a Nanic, and we're good to go. Now, we spent all this time getting organized. I have to put it back. Let's toss these back on the shelf where they go. And then I'm going to show you that, because that would make me curious. Why do you have a huge softbox just sitting on the top of the cage? Originally, all the softboxes that we had, which wasn't much, like a few months ago, would just sit on the top of the cage. So whenever you needed a softbox, you could come grab it right here. I liked putting softboxes up here because it kept them safe for the most part. I figured, hey, if we have the space, let's throw a really big softbox up there with a nan light, and let's use that to actually light the whole cage. So if you look up here, you got a good little hideaway for some of these soft boxes that aren't in use, but you want to keep out of the way from the rest of the warehouse. And then that just lives up there, plugs in down here inside of the gear cage. And that gives you a nice soft glow. Yeah, actually come up here for a second. This is what we call the crow's nest. The crow's nest is great because you can just kind of sneak onto the crow's nest from the main studio area. You can come out here if somebody's shooting, or if you really want to, you can go to the window and then they really don't know. So, not to sound cheesy, but the stress or the anxiety that comes from getting all of your gear set up, or just like finding your gear, like if you want to make a piece of content, if you're feeling creatively inspired and you go to grab your camera and you literally can't find it, or you can't find the cable that it needs, it kills the whole vibe, right? It's so hard to just gain that momentum back. And for a while, that's kind of how it's been around here, specifically in the gear cage. Hasn't been horrible. It's been worse at some periods, but for the most part, it's like, hey, I gotta like gather all of this stuff. Being organized though is like one of the biggest assets I think you could have as a creator. If you can streamline the whole process to pick up your camera and just create, it's so much more enjoyable. And frankly, that's what this has done for us. Organizing everything, having a dedicated space for our gear is one of the best things. And it's worth every ounce of energy and minute spent organizing this thing is 100% worth it. Having a gear cage, you don't need it. If you have a studio, I'd recommend it. It's awesome. But if you're shooting out of your home, if you have a home office, at least get some shelves, get a workbench, get a nice little setup that just makes you happy, where all your gear can go, where you can turn around and build a rig, where you can turn around and film something easily. Set it up. Thanks for watching this video. See you in the next one.